Donald, I can't write anything lately. I've really been struggling to find the time and the inspiration.
I get that, David. I used to struggle with the same thing beforehand. I'm used to not have any ideas, and can never bring myself to sit down and get something down. That is until now.
What do you mean, Donald?
Well, our research team here at the Writ's latest survey showed 90% of writers have pets in their households, and a select few of these pets have come to aid the cause of struggling writers everywhere in the new Pause division of the Writ, Pets Against Writer Struggles. Here at PAWS, we gather the domesticated animals of the average writer's home and have them relay their extensive knowledge on...
Oh, wait. Hold up. Just hold up a second. Donald, what are you doing? Usually I'm the one selling these products to you in these ads.
Yeah, you are, but I thought we'd switch it up for once. Variety is good, right?
Yes, but stability is better. Order is much better.
Nah, I'm all about chaos myself. It's a better reflection on life as a whole.
Well, glad to see where we stand in the whole alignment system. And for more on that, please listen to episodes 30 through 33 of the Writ. Well, if you insist, I guess I'll let you take this one, Donald.
Thanks, David. Don't worry, you'll probably get another 37 times selling the product before I do another again, knowing us.
I suppose you're right. Now, you were talking about the PAWS division?
Oh, right, of course. As I was saying, we here at Pause gather the domesticated animals of the average writer's home and have them relay their extensive knowledge on writing they've picked up from their owners to any writers in need.
Oh, of course those two characters should end up together. They've always loved each other, haven't they? It'll be so sweet. Thanks, buddy.
Wait, Mr. Snuffles, you want me to kill off every single character in the book? That's a little extreme, isn't it? Oh, you're right. All humans deserve death. Oh, I could never not listen to you, Mr. Snuffles. You're so cute. I love you so much, and you love me, don't you?
Tweet! Tweet! Tweet!
Oh, come on, David. Just because my cockatiel penny's gone doesn't mean you can replace him for this part.
Tweet! Tweet! Chirp! Chirp! Tweet!
Have some respect for the dead man.
Chirp! Chirp! Tweet! Tweet! Tweet!
Ugh, just rub his lifeless body into my face, why don't you? You can expect this kind of help and more from the Pause division, the Pets Against Writer Struggles. Call our toll-free number and sign up for a session with our animals today.
Sounds great, Donald. I'll call them right away.
Good to hear, David.
Tweet!
Shut up! Welcome, fellow nerds, to another episode of the Writ, the show that by some miracle has made it to 50 frickin' episodes without self-imploding.
Well, it took us several, hiatus-type things to get there, too.
And, we started out doing monthly, and then now we're doing weekly, so we've gotten through them. These last 20 episodes have gone through like a blur, man.
Yeah, no, really, I'd have no idea. Anyway, no, it's been an interesting ride doing this for so long, and we're getting to some milestone here. This is really exciting.
Yes, 50 episodes. Can you imagine? It seems like only yesterday that we first started thinking about this podcast.
It was only yesterday.
It was
right.
A bright summer day.
How many years ago?
The cornfields were blowing in the breeze, and you were sitting.
Cornfields? You don't live near any.
You were sitting on the front porch of your white wood hut out in the woods. Well, not out in the prairie. And I skipped through the alfalfa towards your house, and I was like, David, I have an idea. And you're
God.
What is your idea, oh Mary Matt, friend of mine?
Mary Mattic, friend.
Mary Matt, friend of mine. And I said, let's do a podcast about writing. And you were like, what's a podcast? This is clearly the 1800s.
I can still see my mama calling from the porch, Alvin!
Yeah, that's where I was going. That's where I was going, yes. For that reference, please watch The Producers.
Please do. It's an amazing film.
Anyways, yeah.
Well,
so happy 50 episodes,
that was
everyone.
probably one of my favorite ones of Mel Brooks's catalog because, it's the music thing, too.
Well, yeah. Robin Hood Man
Anyway.
has a lot of songs in it, too, but...
Well, right. It had great songs, but that was, spoofing Robin Hood in general. It wasn't made into a musical. Although Young Frankenstein was actually made into a Broadway musical. That was really neat.
Anyways, happy 50 episodes.
Yes.
What are we doing to celebrate?
Good to be up to 50. We're in the middle of a set about awesome characters and various other things about them. So last time we did badasses, characters who act awesome, which we never mentioned once in the episode. Sorry, I realized that.
That's okay. So yes, we did characters who act awesome, and now we
do characters who create awesome, also known as
manipulators, chess masters,
string
puppet
pullers,
masters.
Yeah. They're the guys managing things behind the scenes. They don't get dirty unless they have to. Sorry, we'll talk more about them in a sec.
Yes.
So yeah, they guide other characters along like they're on puppet strings and have situations totally, completely under their iron-fisted control.
Absolutely.
But what makes them so awesome?
Well, I'd say what doesn't make them awesome, but what that mainly.
Well, I mean, you can really hate them.
I guess
Does
that's
that make
true.
them awesome or awful?
I suppose. Okay, fine. That's a darn good point. All right. Well, how they command a room and use others to get what they want, no matter how convoluted their schemes are—that's awesome. Like they figure people out and know what motivates them, allowing them to use these people to their liking and make them do things that further their own goals. Like they're cunning, often malicious, and usually everyone's favorite characters. Exactly the way they want it to be.
I don't know if favorite character is really the thing so much as they are like the most accomplished because they have such a solid plan getting to where they want to go.
Right. That's
and
what
readers, and depending on whether the reader sympathizes with them or not, that, yeah.
It depends on the manipulator. Like, to me, a lot of people cite Emperor Palpatine as one of the most awesome villains of Star Wars. And the reason why is in the prequels he manipulated the hell out of everybody to get to where he was and get the galaxy exactly the way he wanted it to be.
Well, and to some extent, some of it was manipulation. A lot of it was just good acting.
Well, yeah, like
playing this,
frail chancellor
this face of the chancellor for the public eye, such that nobody figured out his true intentions.
Yeah.
So there is some of that as well.
And
now I don't think all manipulators have that in common either, but you know, certainly Palpatine did.
Yes, exactly. But like, writing these kind of characters takes a heck of a lot of planning, forward thinking, and a great understanding of each individual character being manipulated, as well as the manipulator.
Well, and that's the thing, is that the manipulator is putting these things together. It's not just the writer knowing, it's the manipulator having that grasp such that she understands it will work.
Yeah, exactly. Like, for the reader to buy the manipulator's actions, they'll have to understand the victims. Pulling this character off, makes for some awesome, highly memorable characters. So
I'd agree with the memorable thing. Yeah.
But they're awesome. They better be awesome because or at least they create awesome.
Well, we're saying they're awesome. They create awesome. Well, I mean, I'd argue we could also have gone with they create awful too.
You're the one who wanted manipulators in this set to begin with, and now you're regretting it.
I'm not.
They're not actually that awesome. They're more awful.
Not what I mean. I'm saying that they create awful as well.
Yeah, I guess. Okay.
Awful being the antithesis of awesome.
We should have saved this for our awful skits. Characters who create awful. Characters who inspire awful.
Yeah, no, I don't think we have enough character types to do that. But anyway, they are the smartest person in the room.
Yes.
And see the chessboard about 5 moves ahead, no matter the configuration of opponent moves. Like true chess masters, they can predict that based on how their opponent responds, they've got strategy upon strategy figured out.
Like,
they're so good at finding the right button to push, it can be a joy to write and a horror to read if it's a villain character.
Right.
Like, there's nothing that I detest more than seeing a manipulator who is so good at what they do, and no matter what the good guys try, they keep falling right into his clutches. They keep following the plan exactly. I can't stand it as a reader, but, it's a pretty good character. It's a pretty good, how far ahead of the actual happening do you have to be to make a plan like this work and know it will succeed without with however many detours there may be.
Yeah, exactly.
And re-figure out, if there is a detour, how to take advantage of that situation, which is different than the one you had in mind.
Right, exactly.
Like, they're stupid smart.
Like, there's some... Yeah.
Their tagline, I suppose, if you wanted to give them a tagline, is want it done right, do it yourself, but only after all other means have been exhausted.
Like, they do it... They don't really do it themselves. They do it through other... They make other people do it for them. But in a way that they...
Only after all other means have been exhausted.
But then that's not really their tagline, though.
Well, yes, it is.
That's their
because
desperation
they want it done right.
Right.
They want it done right, and they're willing to use other people to do it.
Right. Okay.
But if they can't use other people to do it, then they have to do it themselves.
That means they fail as a manipulator, then, I guess. But...
It means that people aren't manipulated the way this character expects them to be.
Right.
They're good at convincing people. So when it comes up on the protagonist side, or the good characters, who are certainly not, like, ambivalent, it usually manifests as the persuader.
Right.
Who likes being manipulated.
Me! I love being manipulated. It's great! No, I don't.
But who likes a freaking intelligent manipulator? Me! You're welcome. Anyway, moving on to the next question, which is, how can the writer best pull off a manipulator's actions?
Right. Well, I think a really important tip is to make sure the reader understands that the characters being manipulated aren't idiots. Like, if they come across as idiots, the manipulator's actions won't seem nearly as impressive. It'll make it seem more like that anyone can manipulate such dolts. So.
To be fair, there's going to be some necessary sacrifice for idiots will be involved in their plan that, it's going to happen.
Right.
That's not impressive, but, it's proof of concept.
They're practical, at least, for manipulators. So you gotta have at least one or two idiots in there. But if they're smart, if these characters are smart, or even suspect that something is up, it makes the manipulators seem much more impressive when they successfully manipulate them.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so here,
more capable if they're doing it on smart people.
Yeah.
More capable if they're manipulating people with average intelligence or better into doing what they want anyway.
One of the best manipulators that I've seen is Barney Stinson from How I Met Your Mother.
You'll have to clarify.
So, he is a real sleazebag who always comes up with ways to figure out how to screw women and, like, manipulate them into liking him and giving him a one-night stand or whatever. And he has a thing called the playbook, which is like this... I might have mentioned this in the show before. It's like this way he does all these bamboozles and flim-flams and all these other methods to try and get into a woman. You know what I mean. Try to get a woman.
Get into her pants?
Yeah, I was trying to avoid that, but
Fine. To know.
No, that's okay.
Know
it's fine.
A woman innately.
That's one word. Yeah. Okay, so to screw them. No. Just go all in.
Just jump off the rails.
Anyways, so soon his friends, so the other characters of the show, they find the playbook. And they start watching him do his manipulations.
This happened to me.
Well, like, and they see him do it to other people at the bar, and they're all really ridiculous. Like, one of them is, like, pretending to be a famous guy, and then he's like, well, as he says, like, whatever, get it out of the way. And this girl's like, what do you mean? Like, you don't know who I am? I'm Lorenzo von Matterhorn. He's like, and then she, like, shrugs, like, you don't know who I am? Oh, what a refreshing change of pace. The name's, as I said, Lorenzo von Matterhorn. And then you leave, and then she looks at her phone, and he's already created a fake website for Lorenzo von Matterhorn with all the accomplishments that he's done. And then, he comes back, and he's like, I'm sorry, I don't usually do this, but would you like to go out? She's like, yes, I would love to. You're amazing. But anyway, so... There's all these different schemes throughout it, but then they're like, it comes in scuba gear. He's like, good evening, everyone. I'm going to perform a play from the playbook called The Scuba Diver. That is all. And then he leaves. And they look through the book, and they can't find the scuba diver in the playbook. They're like, they've been through this book left and right. They're like, what is this? So they go to a bar. They find the woman that he's got his eyes on, and then then they start talking to that woman and explaining to him about the playbook, and but they
Explaining to him or her?
They explain to her about the playbook. I'm sorry, and they explain to her this thing, but they really want to know what the scuba diver is. So they end up going over with this girl over to Barney, and Barney at first like, "Hello, I'm a scuba diver. I specialize in saving dolphins from." And she doesn't look impressed, and he's like, "Yeah, you know what? What? Forget it. All these plays, it's because I'm so nervous about being who I really am, and I want to seem more impressive." And then so they start feeling sorry for him, and then he's like, "Oh, I know this is probably silly, but I just really like you. Do you want to go out with me?" And then the friends encourage her to go out with him, and then as they leave, he points to the bottom of the table. There's the page of the scuba diver. The whole plan was to get them to talk to this girl and tell them about the scuba diver. And then when he went to do the scuba diver, he would fake being sad about it. And then they would encourage him to ask him out. So they played right into his game.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. No, the thing that, sorry to tangent just a bit from that, the thing that I originally wanted to do was put manipulators with types of villains, and in forgetting this, which is we were so mad about, obviously, that we had to find a place to put them in.
Right.
But the reason I was going to do it in villains is because these people love, taking the options away from others.
Right. Exactly.
So like a manipulator who's truly ahead of their game will remove any other obstacle such that they literally do not have a choice but to play into the hand of the manipulator.
Exactly, and that's what Barney did. Another good manipulator, I'm not going to go into as much detail or like any at all, but another manipulator I really like is Makuta from Bionicle. He's really good at playing the whole universe into his hands to get exactly what he wants.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the manipulators have a plan, and they, have to make people follow that path for the plan to work. And so you really have to know a lot about people, right?
Right. But like one thing I have here, it's like make it clear the steps of the manipulator's actions to get what they want. So the reader buys the fact that point A leads to point B, which leads to point C, and so on. Now you don't have to do this as they're doing it. Like sometimes it's fun to do it after they've already won, like Barney does with this play.
So finally revealing the scuba diver page was all a ploy after he got what he wanted.
Yeah, exactly. So give the manipulator a clear motivation, like wanting to screw girls, or wanting to get a lot of money, or wanting to get power, so we can see why they're making so much of an effort to manipulate others. Like, what's their reasoning?
Could it simply be that they just like manipulating people as well?
That's true. They could just be doing it for the sake of doing it. Makes them feel empowered. Makes them feel,
capable, accomplished, better. Right. I'm much better than you if I can manipulate you into doing what I want you to do.
Right. But
anyway,
also,
sorry, that's a possible motivation I was thinking.
Right, but lastly, make them succeed. Or at least get them really, really close to succeeding. This will show the reader just how cunning and often dangerous these characters are.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, that was my...
Yeah. Thanks for the How I Met Your Mother spiel, too.
That show, looking back on it, is quite problematic, but it's funny at the time.
Well, I mean, it's most sitcoms ever.
Yeah.
Logic is thrown out the window for humor.
Indeed.
Anyway, as far as the manipulator's actions...
It helps that Barney is played by Neil Patrick Harris, a notoriously gay man.
Yeah, I was about to say, that's ironic that Barney was the guy doing all this, but...
Yeah.
There are like two different devices that I can think of for best pulling off manipulator's actions. One of two. Either they won't accept any failure or deviation from the plan they concocted.
Right.
Or they have backup plans upon plans such that if something were to get thwarted, that they simply move down the chain and it still leads to the same result.
Right, that's what Makuta does a lot. Like, a lot of times in Bionicle, like, he is defeated, but this is all... He's got the contingency plans. He's got the ways to still make those losses lead into his victory. So
I find the manipulators who have thought far enough ahead to have multiple paths to the same end result are the most rewarding to read about.
right.
Or, because, let's be real, most of these people are villainous, see them defeated.
It's very cathartic to see characters like this defeated. They
Yes.
finally get what they deserve. So
Absolutely, they got their comeuppance for being such meddlers. 'Cause
Right,
that's what they are.
they really are. Well as villains.
Speaking of meddlers, though, as one type of character, what type of characters work best as manipulators?
And speaking of villains is the easiest answer. But manipulators aren't necessarily always villainous in nature. Sometimes
I'd agree with that.
Sometimes the protagonist is the manipulator, who keeps ahead of the game by turning his enemies against each other, or making his friends do certain things so he can get what he wants.
Wait, in your notes here you have so they get what they want.
I was trying to be
the
gender
manipulator
neutral,
or
but
the
then I just
friends?
started going he when I was
Well,
talking.
no, I'm not referring to that so much. I'm referring. Are you saying the friends get what they want, or
No,
are you saying the
so
protagonist?
the manipulator gets what he
The
wants.
manipulator gets what she wants. Okay.
Ambiguous syntax, isn't it fun?
Yeah, well, that's why I had to check, because you said one thing and wrote another.
Right. No, I get it. But these characters, more often than not, are often anti-heroes, which we'll definitely talk about in an upcoming episode. But really, a manipulator can be any type of character, like the hero, the villain, the sidekick, even the mentor. Like,
I mean, when you think about the sidekick, they probably aren't fully formed the manipulator just yet, or else they wouldn't be the sidekick, right? Unless they chose to be there.
well, it's like, well, again, like Barney from How I Met Your Mother. He's not the main character of the show. Ted is. So he's just one of their friends. So he's kind of the sidekick.
Like, well, if you view it as a vehicle featuring Ted, then maybe, but I wouldn't call him a sidekick per se.
Maybe.
Because when I think sidekick, I think Robin to Batman, I think Superboy to Superman. I don't think somebody who's on equal billing.
Yeah,
I think
guess that's
somebody
true.
who is distinctly lesser.
Right.
So,
I mean, it would have to be someone that's not so much like a guy that's like with that's following the hero all the time. It's like a guy who has their own sort of path, but often sticks to the hero or something.
fair enough. Something that comes up when I think about manipulators is that, you have to control droves of people that have all different personalities, their own tics, and various means of effective motivation.
Right.
So, honestly, I think any good commander worth his or her salt would be a good manipulator.
Right.
The best ones don't worry about the means or even the morals. They just accomplish what they set out to do, and that's why villains are the more likely pick for manipulation.
Well, do you have? I've
manipulators, I should say.
I've mentioned a few of my favorite manipulators. Do you have any of yours personally?
I think an interesting example of a manipulator would be Harold Hill.
Oh yeah, again, Music Man. Was this episode or last episode where you mentioned? I think it was last episode.
I think it was last episode.
Okay.
But I mean, here he is spinning tales, and it starts with just this little thing. Like, if you actually are... Okay, so how familiar are you with the plot of Music Man?
Oh, I used to
Scale
watch
of
the
1 to
movie
10.
all the time as a kid, the old movie.
Okay.
So
Okay, so you're aware. When he comes into town, he spies immediately one thing, and his old running buddy, Marcellus, says, there's one thing new here, and Harold then uses that to get people to buy instruments.
Like, he's not just a con man who's, like, trying to sell things. I mean, he is a con man, but he's not just that. Like, he's not just trying to sell things
He's
without...
clever.
Yeah, like, he specifically says,
he also doesn't really have ill will other than trying to be greedy.
Yes, exactly. Like, Marcellus tells him this new place has a pool table. And he's like, okay, that'll do it. And so he figures out...
pool table before, right.
Yeah, so he's like, okay, I'm going to show that this pool table just makes kids cause trouble. They'll need to have another sort of activity to do rather than just playing pool because it could lead to, like, them...
And guess what? I can provide that for you. Yeah,
exactly. So... He's
not expressly a leader personality, but, he is a very good manipulator. I would also say that, not any one character in particular, but a drill sergeant.
Right.
They're known for yelling at people And I think that the best drill sergeants realize that not everybody responds the same way to yelling.
Right.
And that they have some other means of encouraging their troops to do what is actually necessary.
Right.
Now, again, that's more of a theory than an actual, like, I've seen it in real life experience, but...
Now, I guess there's, like, those kind of, like, strategic manipulators, like manipulators on a grand scale.
That's
like, if
the
I move
thing.
my army here, this will cause this army to trigger a response and come down here
Right.
to meet me, which will make this other army go, like,
So
give them
any
a free
commander
path.
worth their salt would be a good manipulator. Obviously, the ones that do not particularly care what means they use, more aligned with villainous intent, more aligned with dark traits, more likely villains. So
Right.
that's
Like,
my thought.
another manipulator that I also like that I was just thinking about here, Professor James Moriarty.
Ah, yes.
He's really good at his manipulating shtick. Like, he's like I mainly know I haven't read a lot of the Sherlock Holmes stuff, but I have watched the Robert Downey Jr. movies, and the one where he's in A Game of Shadows, he is manipulating the hell out of all of Europe. Like
Yep.
he's like, okay, I'm going to make this person like these tensions between France and Germany. I'm going to escalate them through some assassinations and some other things that make it seem like that they're fighting each other. Okay, I'm also going to buy this weapons manufacturer company, and I'm going to
Supply both sides.
And then, when there's a peace summit, I'm going to have a guy in my side who looks like one of the ambassadors shoot another guy, triggering a world war, and when this happens, I will get rich because they will be buying my weapons.
Well, here's proof of concept again that Moriarty is expressly described as like a chess master, and so you see the scene where he and Sherlock are actually facing off on the chessboard.
Yeah, exactly.
In addition to, the grand scheme going on.
That scene is so awesome. Like, and
It
also,
is.
because like, not only are they playing chess, at the end, they get up, and then they start talking to each other to plans, but then they verbally play chess. They're like king to rook 2, bishop to bishop 8. They're not even looking at a damn board anymore. They're just...
Yeah.
They're
I
that
would
smart.
never be that good at chess.
Like, also, if you pay notice, while they're doing this, there's a ballroom going on. So that's not ballroom. It's like a ambassador sort of peace summit meeting where this whole thing is going to happen. And if you look at the tiles where Watson and the girl, I forget her name, who they were,
They're moving.
They're
Basically, according to
and also Moriarty's men are. If you look at the floor, it's a chessboard. Like it's
basically a movie.
It's literally a chessboard. It's 8 by 8 black and white tiles.
That's some attention to detail. That's really cool.
Yeah,
which is fitting for Sherlock. I mean, obviously Moriarty is one of the smartest guys in the room, and he knows it.
Like
so
he's
planning
Sherlock
to use
Holmes' intellectual equal, but moral like opposite.
Yeah.
So I just thought we'd have some, since we're only 25 minutes in. I just wanted to see if we just to extend a little further. We talk about some manipulators.
Yeah,
Is there anything else really to say though?
I mean, as far as like good examples, most of the ones that I'm like really thinking of aren't coming to mind right now.
So the ones you're thinking of, you aren't thinking of?
No, I'm saying the ones I'm trying to think of are just escaping my reach.
Yeah, I get it. That makes sense. So I'm trying to think. I'll edit this out.
Which won't solve our time problem anyway.
All right, I'll leave this in. I'm manipulating the length of the episode. That's a bit of a stretch.
That is a bit of a stretch, but it's not necessarily wrong. It's called doctoring, I suppose.
All right, hold on. I'm going to go onto TV Tropes and look up some manipulators. Hold on. Pardon me, listeners. This is the part where you go, professional.
Professional.
Alright. Lord Cutler Beckett from Pirates of the Caribbean. Oh yeah, I guess
call him much of a... Okay, I mean, I see why, but at the same time, it's not that great of a comparison.
That's one of the things they have. I don't even remember. So.
Well, Beckett's trying to, influence the routes with the East India Trading Company and trying to take over, and so he's trying to have people play into his hands to make that work.
Oh, I got one, and this is like a anti-heroic example. V from V for Vendetta. He manipulates the heck out of Have you ever seen the movie or read the comic
No.
at all?
Neither.
Okay, so basically he is this guy who's like an anarchist in this dystopian totalitarian government that has taken over England. And they're basically Nazis. They're executing people that don't like the empire. They're executing pretty much anyone who's not white and straight. And but V, he's got a mask on as well as not just because to be a symbol, but also because he's also severely burnt by escaping something that happened earlier from the thing. And he is like, I'm going to take down this government. He sneaks into the news broadcast room and delivers a message to all the TVs to be like he hijacks it and then says the people should not be afraid of the government. The government should be afraid of the people. And throughout the rest of it, he manipulates the various members of parliament, because that's where they've taken over, to killing each other until there's one guy left. And then he ends up killing them, but sacrificing his life in the process. And then all the people inspired by him band up. What's that noise? Oh, it's someone's doing fireworks next door because they haven't gotten the message the 4th of July is over.
I thought you were talking about the one that you can kind of hear from my end, but it's faint enough that.
And speaking of fireworks, they blow up Parliament.
Oh yeah.
And as well as explosions, they do it to the music, the 1812 overture.
Oh yeah, right.
And,
so as soon as those big cymbal hits go,
Yep.
so the big bass drum hits, so you have fireworks going off, basically.
Yeah.
That's pretty consistent with how it's used.
Right. So yeah, and also they do this. He makes sure that this is done on the 5th of November, which is where that famous quote that you probably heard, remember the 5th of November.
Remember the 5th of November. That's the only thing I know about V for Vendetta. So, other than the fact that the movie starred Natalie Portman, I know that too.
He gives that first news broadcast where he hijacks it on the 5th of November, and then he spends the next year putting everything into play so that when midnight hits on the next 5th of November, Parliament's being blown up, and all the people of this government are either killed or taken account. Yeah.
And they can't stop him.
Yeah.
It is a master stroke, it really is.
Right.
Golly, trying to think. There's one that I'm thinking of right now. Is just a scene from this film that I watched recently. The franchise, it's called the Garo franchise, and it's very
sounds
tokusatsu
Japanese
for adults. It is. Very tokusatsu for adults. And there's a character in a film by the name of Jinga, and Jinga is this heartless, incredibly experienced fighter, sword expert, amongst other things. And it turns out that he is essential to the main MacGuffin in the plot,
right,
for activating it, starting it, using it. And so these monstrous creatures called horrors, consistently throughout the franchise, are trying to awaken him such that he can build their arc and fulfill that portion of the plot, which short version is that if they can manage to get to the moon, that they'd be granted immortality.
Good classic motivation there.
Such that nobody could defeat them.
Right.
And to do this, they have to take the protectors, who in this series pretty consistently are called Makai Knights. They have to take the armor from a Makai Knight and use it to resurrect this being, Jinga.
Right.
However, the catch is that he's only alive for one night.
So he's got to make use of that one night.
However, it is revealed later on that if he goes up to the moon too, that he could also be granted immortality.
Nice.
So he's like, okay, well, I definitely want to go now. And there's a scene in this film. The film is called Kami no Kiba, which translates literally to the Fang of God.
Right.
And that's the name of the arc, by the way, if you're curious.
Makes sense.
And so he takes the Fang of God towards the moon, and it's revealed that these monsters were playing him. He's not the master of this arc. We've been using you to get our master revived, kind of thing.
Right,
and he's like, and then he says this, and this is the reason I bring this story up, because it proves that he is, one step ahead of the game here.
Right.
He says, I knew that from the beginning, and I'm doing it anyway because I have a bigger plan in mind. And
Nice.
just blasts this person into smithereens.
Sounds fun.
Like, literally, there's a scene where it shows him he has the capability of reading minds.
Right.
By mere contact.
Right.
So he's able to figure out the hero's plan just by being close up. He's able to figure out the monster's plan, and apparently the monster didn't realize how extensive this mind reading was.
Right.
Because he knew from the get that their plan was. And now the the viewer, is surprised by this. They didn't quite expect it because he looked to be in command of the arc, and then this person had already been destroyed once on screen, comes back and says, oh, by the way, we're using you. And he's like, BS, I'm using you. Bam.
That's funny. People think they're using each other. That's pretty good. That sounds like quite the manipulator. Yeah, well, that's pretty good.
I mean, it's somebody who adapts to a situation,
right.
Which is a very common trait in manipulators. So
Right.
I brought that up. I probably should have said that in What Will We Rip Off, although I don't know if I'd have a place to use it.
Well, too late now.
Anyway, any final thoughts or
Yes,
miscellaneous
this is good
about
enough, yes.
manipulators?
Any final thoughts? Oh, yeah. Manipulators are awesome, so write them awesomely. You can't half-ass characters like this. They deserve your full attention as a writer to pull off effectively. Show the reader the effects of their actions. Show their plans in motion. Show how in control these characters are, which ideally should be all the control.
Or at least, adjusting to regain control.
Right. Like whether they be a villain, a hero, or a show-stealing supporting character, manipulators deserve respect, and thus, as should the writer that writes them. Earn that respect.
One thing that I thought of that I haven't really mentioned, well, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, is that this is kind of a learned trait.
Right.
How to manipulate people is something that you cultivate over years of experience and practice and, well, frankly, trial and error.
Right.
But theoretically, when we see it in the story, it's fully developed.
Right.
That means knowing their logic, graphing out their plan, any contingencies, predicting how the move the character makes will alter, or maybe not, the outcome, how the manipulator reacts and possibly adjusts the plan if necessary, etc., etc.
Right.
Lots of prep work goes into writing these guys well, not to be taken lightly, but the result is a memorable character. Yay for shadowed string pullers.
Yay! Snaps for everyone, or them specifically.
Yeah, basically.
Alright. Oh, is that it for this week?
Anyways, I think we can safely say that's it for this week. So if you have any questions or concerns,
yes,
maybe suggestions for future episodes, we really love those. Please contact us. That's Matt D with 2 T's there at MatthewDonaldCreator.com. Any general questions or maybe specific ones to either co-host, but please tell us which one you mean because we have Matt D in common.
We certainly do, don't we?
Also, if you're really worried about spelling Matthew Donald the Creator, just look in the description. It's there. We promise.
It's not that hard, listeners. Come on. Nah, it's fine.
It shouldn't be. But anyway, if you want to follow Donald personally, he's got stuff to do that as well.
I certainly do. Follow me at Matthew Donald Creator. I just realized I have follow me at on these notes. That's why there's a blue thing there.
Moving on.
Follow me at Matthew Donald Creator on Facebook, at MatthewDonald64 on Twitter, and MatthewDonald64 on Instagram. Why 64? Because that's how many cats my family has in our basement. I tell you go down there and the smell hits you like a freight train on warp speed.
I always said your house was a menagerie.
It is. It's ridiculous.
64 cats alone.
It's ridiculous.
Say nothing about the birds and dogs and squirrel.
Yeah, that's how Penny died. Actually, no, that's not how he died. It's ridiculous. And before you ask, none of them are part of the Paws division. They have no interest in helping anyone.
Well, I mean, yeah, they have to be willing to help. Oh, and in honor of that, chirp, chirp, tweet, tweet.
Shut the hell up. That's fine. Okay, it's fine. He was a good bird. I miss him.
I understand, and I can certainly understand why you miss him, because he was like a treasured part of your soul.
He was.
Because you doted on him so much. Anyways, that is it for us on Manipulators. We'll be back
Enough
next week
manipulating
with some
your
more.
emotions there, listeners.
Yeah, hopefully you had enough tissues. If you don't, we're sorry, but
Yes,
not
and
that sorry.
also, I'm going to honor your father as well. So just because I.
Well, thank you for returning the favor. Anyways, until next week, where we talk about a different kind of awesome character. We hope to see you then.
Yep.
But keep on writing.
Keep writing.
Again, please, with questions, prompts, anything, please let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Also, let us know if it's okay to read those on the air. We'd be happy to do that.
Absolutely.
If you give us the okay.
I'm Matt Donald.
And I'm Matt David.
All right.
We'll see you next time on the Writ.
The